Hey guys, what's going on? URounder here, and I was a few minutes into a session, and I just was feeling like crazy low energy. Not like, yeah, just like kind of low energy, low confidence. Decided to fire up a video because that sometimes helps with those issues. So yeah, I think like maybe one of the most important things when you're playing Multiway, we want to go ahead and c-bet for value and raise the size of our bet, is like getting into a confident state of mind. I mean, you have to be okay with the fact that when you're playing, you know the information you know, and you're not going to learn anything new while sitting here playing. In fact, the stuff that you learn while at the table oftentimes is probably hurting your game more than anything else, because you have results biases that are improperly weighted. So like when I started my session, I had like 3 or 4 good opportunities to check raise early when the session started, and I got clicked back on like 3 or 4 times in a row. I don't know, it felt like 6 times. It was probably like 2, but it was like, I think it was actually 3 or 4 times I got like min clicked back on, and it was kind of just like what the fuck is going on? Like, it was really frustrating because I hadn't seen that all that much, and all of a sudden it's happening. So we know the turn is underfolded in general, so I'm going to raise up, get a decent bet size in here, because I'm not going to want to bet the turn and bet the river. Again, like, this guy bet the turn and then bet the flop and then check raise the turn. Like, I have no idea what this line is. But he's going to barrel a guy taking a weird fishy line like that is probably going to be volatile enough that he's going to bet the river, so it's a fold. So I'm fine with our play. It's just stuff like that can, like, all of a sudden you're just like, what the fuck is everyone doing? And I'm sorry I'm swearing so much, but I try not to. But yeah, it's just like, what is everyone doing? Like, why the hell is this all of a sudden happening? And you have no idea what it really means. Like, everybody is short stacked, it feels like. So it can get frustrating, for sure. Like, it just because it's bizarre lines that you don't really know what's going on, and so there's this weird thing, like, am I getting exploited? Like, is what they're doing good? It's probably not, but I don't like it. So I don't know. It can definitely lead to playing poorly, which is kind of what happened. I had a bunch of weird, just like fishy weird lines and min clickbacks and stuff happen to me. I got kind of frustrated, and then I barreled a couple times too light, I think, and then I called down like 2 or 3 times too light, and now I'm in a session where I'm really struggling. And as I mentioned in the last video, I think I have to call this, right? I mean, we're probably in trouble, but as I mentioned in the last video, like I've got 2 days in a row. I think that's literally the first time all year. Like, I could literally check that. Whoops. Like, I think that's the first time all year. If I go to results, calendar. I don't want to time out over here, but all of January. Okay, I had 1, 2. So I had 2 winning days in January that I see here. Wait, hold on. All stakes, all game types. No, I had more than that. I had, twice. Okay, so twice in January I had 2 winning days in a row. So this would be the 3rd time. So I've never had 3 winning days in a row this year. February, pretty much, yeah. So this would be the first time all year I had 3 days in a row that I won all 3 days. And it's not going well so far. And I only have a few more hours because I have some social plans this evening that is going to preclude me from playing. We've got a dinner party to go to. So anyway, now I know that I shouldn't be results oriented like that about winning days in a row or whatever, but it's nice to have a little momentum, especially when you're kind of struggling to some extent. So what is this like? So 2, and I have to stack off here, obviously. 2. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Jack, one time. Ace 2, 3, 4, 5. This is relatively transparent, but I guess we'll just keep going. I feel like I'm just giving more rake to the site by doing this. Anyway, I should probably rebuy on this table, huh? Yeah, very anecdotal. I say that a lot. I feel like I overuse that word. But yeah, I just feel like my pattern is I'll win pots from fish, and then I will call off too light in situations where I know I should fold. And for whatever reason, I can't get myself to fold. I'm not talking about the jack's hand. I know the jack's hand is a call. I mean, I guess he can only have 10s there, but he could also have like one pair of hands. He could have overcards sometimes. So the jack's hand is an easy call. I'm gonna check raise this. One thing I've noticed is I was looking at some stuff today, and Ignition pretty severely overcalls against check raises. So when you check raise, god damn, that's not the card I want to see. When you check raise on Ignition, players call more often than they should. They also call this turn bet more often than they should, as far as I can tell. What the fuck is going on? This sucks. I have to bet fold with this. You can still get value from worst 2 pair, I guess. He might not raise a flush here. Oh, thank God. What did he have? Okay, I'm gonna check what he had. I'm curious. I'm feeling stressed out about every hand now. It sucks. But at the same time, as long as I'm talking through the hands, I usually play them correctly. That hand I know was played correctly. It's just kind of stressful and annoying that the hands are going down the way they are. He had pocket aces. Wow. He called down with pocket aces on that board. That's amazing. I hope I wouldn't do that. Maybe I would. I don't know. I hope. Oh, I didn't show you guys the hand, but yeah, I think you believe me. One of the bad call downs was in a multi-way pot where it was a donk better. So it's that donk bet line, but because it was multi-way, maybe it's not as clear a call. I also looked, just today, I looked at that donk bet line, and it is, even going donk, 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 donk and then bet turn, bet river, that whole range is just full of air and middle pair and just junk. A pretty good sample shows that that's a lot of garbage in that range. It is a little bit different if they wake up on the turn, although not that much. On the river, it's totally different. Like if somebody just all of a sudden donks out on the river, especially if it's a big bet, that's actually pretty strong, which I already kind of knew. All right, I am standing up, so that feels good. Standing up, I got my big tables. You guys probably can't tell, but I mentioned in the last video that I've got the tables like filling up the monitor pretty much. Obviously not the whole thing because it's not the right aspect ratio. So what happened? Why? I don't have my pre-flop stuff. This guy's just shipping it here. Like, this might be a call. He can have ace queen. He can have like overs with diamonds. Aha, one time. One time. That's all we need. All right, now we're cooking with grease. Get a couple good suckouts. It's always a good way to lighten the mood. Should I call this $1.05 raise? We're ahead. We're behind. We're behind. We lost. Took me a second. Let's see what's going on here. Oh. Ah, damn it. Guess I'll fold. Got distracted. Somebody sent me a message about the thing tonight. This is close, but I think because there's two colors. It's gonna fold. If that guy was deeper, that would be a good check raise spot. This is pretty connected, but we have backdoor equity. Let's raise. So it's too connected to just raise with no equity. Because we have a little bit of equity, I think we can check raise. It is a low board, which makes it good for a check raise. And the big blind calling range, while it will have some of that, it's more like high cards. Usually the big blind calling range has like some, you know, offsuit Broadway cards, things like that. Bank that 2 pair on the river, so we should be able to get. I I probably wouldn't bet if we hadn't hit the 2 pair. So yeah, I mean, my tables are nice and big and clear, and that actually is, I mentioned in the last video, like before Table Tamer was like messing up the aspect ratio of them because of the settings I put in, not anything wrong with the software, but just because of what I had put in, because what I thought every poker table was the same, and of course Ignition is different. So now I have the right aspect ratio for the table. Got them nice and blown up. I don't know, the actual Ignition software feels better. Maybe it's just because it's all like nice and big and clear and right in my face. I would like to center it more, but like I only have 2 monitors, so the monitor I play on they're like sort of split in the middle of my desk, so I have to like move way off to one side of my desk to get it like right in front of me. But overall, I think it's a pretty good setup. See, now I don't even know what happened here. Like now I look down, and all of a sudden we have like 2 kind of decent stacks. So I'm not sure what's happened. I know we had a suck out on the right-hand table, but again, this is a pretty good check raise. 6-9-4, and then we should do the half pot stab on the turn, and I'll probably stab river too on this board. It's just so dry. Even that queen, yeah, I think we're just gonna stab. I mean, yes, we win with a check back with an ace sometimes, but there's so much stuff he can call with the with that board, like especially the club, and like there's the 9 and the queen. There's some connectedness there, so a lot of stuff can peel the turn that is not going to call the river, I would think. Of course, you know, occasionally I get shown, you know, ace high there, but we blocked some ace high. Now, I guess the problem is that if he had worse than ace high, then we're not, you know, we're not folding out better. However, it's a check fold, so you know, if I check, I'm giving somebody the opportunity to bluff me for a good price, and then it's possible that he has a small pocket pair or something that folds the river. Like, not likely, but not completely impossible, I don't think. All right, good flop for kings. 2, 3, 4. So we have a gut shot to the bottom end of a straight. Not very good. The ace high board we're not barreling because a lot of players have weak aces. Here I am gonna take a half pot stab once flop gets checked back. I wouldn't expect too many aces. This is a fairly connected board. 7, 9, the ace, 2 hearts. Most aces should bet there. And bottom pair here, kind of tempting to call, but we're gonna get shown a very small pocket pair a lot here. I think on the 3rd heart with the 4th straight, players don't bluff these too often, so we can check fold. Yeah, that's fine. 5s, fold, small blind. Jack 10 and the cutoff should be an open. Same thing here. This is a good stab. I'm curious to see what my red line looks like in like the last 3 days. I feel like, I mean, it's just I don't know. I'm confused on whether or not it even matters. I mean, I know it doesn't. What matters is, you know, whether you're winning or not, but like, I think the general idea behind like having a decent red line is that you're playing a style that doesn't necessarily require that you're like hitting a lot of hands. Maybe that's a little too vague, but like if you can sort of take down a lot of pots without strong hands because you can identify situations that it's profitable for. It seems like in my head for some reason it feels like that would like reduce variance to some extent and or just increase your overall profit. It's the same thing like recognizing that, you know, once players call the flop, they are likely to also call the turn, and so we can kind of size up our bet a little bit more on the turn. There's a ton of stuff I want to look at in like PO and hand to note with respect to bet sizes. I'm like really curious about how the pool reacts to various bet sizes and yeah, things like that. I almost like, and then also if I was gonna play on a site like ACR, I'm curious how we might be able to build strategies against specific opponents, especially like the one thing that's, again, interesting about like ACR. I think about this stuff a lot, and it probably has very little value. I should probably just be reviewing hands instead of thinking about all this stuff. But something I think about a lot is like these guys who I can't get over. There's a player, I just sent his name to somebody. If anybody knows who he is, I'd love to talk to him. But Sonic 3D Blast. There's a guy on America's Card Room called Sonic 3D Blast. He is on every single table of like 25 NL. Like I don't know how many tables he plays, but it looks like it's a lot. And like, you know, getting in the top 10 or whatever for the Beast, playing 25 NL. I don't know if he's on other limits or not, but I haven't actually checked. But I mean, the thing is there's no way that guy can really, if that is a person and if it's not a bot, that's another thing I'm curious about. I'm sort of have a hard time believing that that's not a bot. But anyway, a player like that, if it is a person, right? Even somebody who's like not playing quite as much as that guy, but somebody who's playing like 100,000 hands a month, plus like doing that, they can't adjust to you. So if there's something in their strategy that's like outside of optimal and you can identify it using like PO solver and hand to note by like isolating them, that seems like it could make things really interesting, right? For like playing on a site that has screen names, because honestly, that guy's on every single table. Like imagine if you, nothing against him, obviously, we want to size this up. But like if you built a strategy that like was definitely profitable against that guy and he's on every single one of your tables, well, like that's kind of interesting, right? Like that's an interesting idea. And so unless it's like a bot who is playing, you know, close to optimal, which I sort of doubt, seems unlikely, although not impossible, then there's opportunities for things like that. This is a fairly large re-raise. Sure. But yeah, there's just a lot of interesting stuff that I've been thinking about with looking in, you know, once I've started exploring hand to note, and obviously with PO solver I've been exploring for a while, but this idea of, like I was thinking about on ACR, if I was playing the same way that I play on Ignition. First of all, the pools play very similar. I thought like ACR would be a much tougher player pool. It may be, like there may be some different stuff going on there, but the overall like lines and stats and everything look pretty similar to Ignition. Like it doesn't, at least at 25 no limit, it actually doesn't look as like vastly different as you might think it is, or as I thought it would be. So my thought was like, okay, other regulars are going to have HUDs, they're going to develop this strategy. But the thing is like you could almost, I was thinking about this because I was thinking about varying bet sizes and how players react, but you could almost have like various sort of, and a podcast. So I was listening to a podcast about a guy who like did a lot of like playing chess with like Bobby Fischer, who there's like a movie about. Anyway, he was talking about how when he was like training with Bobby Fischer for like these like Russian world championships, like Bobby Fischer had like 3 opening moves, like 2 or 3 opening. I guess he just used the same opening move in chess like every time. And then like randomly before this world championship, after like 17 years of professional chess, the guy that was on the podcast, I forget the guy's name that was on the podcast. It was Tim Ferriss's, I think most recent as of this moment, podcast that he was on. And he was like, all of a sudden he saw him like practicing other opens. He's like, well, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you looking at that stuff? And, the guy kind of smirked, and like, sure enough, after 17 years of professional chess, only using like 3 opening moves, he went to this like last world championship and was all of a sudden using these other opening moves. So it was like this like huge long con where, all of a sudden he was playing this strategy that people hadn't studied against him. And essentially, like, you kind of could do something a little bit similar with your poker strategy. I mean, you could literally sign on one day and play a strategy that involves like, betting larger, betting like 66% pot on every street, or 66, then 88, and then something else. You understand what I'm saying, though? Like a large betting strategy where like you're like playing more tight and more value oriented or something like that. And then the very next day, you could play like a 33% strategy where you're betting light. And as long as you have a pretty good idea of what your strategy needs to look like, you kind of leave it up to everyone else to figure out how to defend against it. You don't need to necessarily be playing it perfectly optimal, but if you have a general idea of what the environment does against those bet sizes, which you can sort of research, you could essentially develop like 2 or 3 different styles, where anybody can have HUD stats on you, but they still have no idea how you're playing today, or how you're playing that hand. Like if you have that sort of in your repertoire, like all of a sudden poker becomes kind of a different game if you think about it like that. You can have your HUD reads become somewhat unreliable, and you have to sort of challenge people to understand how to properly adjust to whatever you are doing, or play optimal against that sizing. So I don't know, just sort of going through a lot of this stuff that I've been doing recently has made me realize like there's a lot more out there for like exploitation. Like there's a lot of cool options and cool things that we can start doing to take advantage of anonymous environments, to take advantage of non-anonymous environments. And I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. I enjoy thinking about it and looking in and implementing it. And honestly, once you get, if you guys, I don't think most of the players that watch my videos can most likely afford Nick Howard's night vision pack, but if you can, I would say it's worth it. I mean, once you get in there and they show you how to set up, hold hand to note and get everything going, like it's a real powerful tool, and you can get some pretty interesting things going. Holy crap, it's a blizzard outside. I did not know that this was happening. I just looked outside and it's like, man, it is a gray sky out there. It is, there's like a massive blizzard. I might not be able to go to my social event tonight because my Prius isn't so hot in the snow. This is like about as good as it gets. 7-2-8 rainbow. This is like a raise any, and now we flop overs and a gut shot. The 10's not great, but we're still gonna go for it. I think half pot's the right size here. Yuck. Do we do it? Do we try? I mean, what can he have here? Jack 9, we block that. 6-9. We're gonna run into a lot of 2-pair that doesn't want to fold for half pot. This is gonna, oh god, I'm gonna puke when I see what he has. No, okay, that's fine. That's top 2. He's not folding that. What did I just fold? I just accidentally folded something over here. So unfortunately, he improved on the turn. That makes it a lot harder to get a fold. And he had top pair on the flop, so that was, I mean, I don't know if that technically should not have been a turn barrel, but we did turn some equity, but not 8 outs of equity. That's usually the rule, is like we have to have 8 outs of equity to barrel the turn, but I think it was okay. I think that's still a profitable bet. And I'm glad we gave up on the turn, obviously. Although, who knows? Maybe you get a fold there sometimes. I doubt it. And I mean, obviously, think about this. We ran into the absolute top of his range, right? Like, players are going to call there with MP, King 10 off, yes. I thought so. Just want to make sure. The other thing that I think has been knocking me off my game a little bit is, you know, there's good and bads about being able to see all the hands your opponents have, but man, there's so much nonsense going on Ignition. I guess on maybe all sites have a lot of nonsense going on, but by nonsense I just mean there was I don't know if I played the hand on video or not, but there was a hand. This is an under the gun range, so this board shouldn't connect too well with his under the gun range, which is like mostly broadways. That is a terrible turn. Unless he's like jacks through queens, which is possible. When he checks the ace, he's gonna look me up with like kings or queens or jacks. Oh, min raise, okay. It's obviously a fold. And this guy ships. He's got a flush draw, we've got the ace, and we hold. Nice. All right, a lot going on. Sorry if I seem, I'm not distracted. I'm just looking at 2 poker tables. Like, that's really all I've got going on right now. Oh, well what the hell? Now it's clear skies. What just happened out here? I have no idea what just happened outside. It was like a blizzard for 2 seconds and now there's nothing. All right, cool. I think we just ship here, right? Oh, please don't fold. There we go. Thank God, King Jack. Oh, no, come on, no, don't do this. Whew. Probably could have gotten a. It's another thing is like betting thin. I'm really torn sometimes on whether or not I should be like barreling thin with second pair, because I mean I get called a lot get called a lot by like third pair, by nothing. Players call down a lot, so it's always kind of a weird thing whether or not I should be like barreling super thin. I'm always frustrated when players don't fold like the second, third, fourth pair type stuff, the bottom pair, the under, the pocket pair that's under the board. But then I don't barrel my, second pair, stuff like that would get a lot of value from those light calls. It's just, I guess my range versus range analysis might not be quite strong enough to be as confident as I would need to know what the spots are to do that and what the spots are not. This is suspicious when this guy doesn't bet the ace, although I think it's a limped pot, right? I'm not going to go for... There's so many like weak aces in his range that I don't think we should bet the river. So another sort of thing that I want to look into more that I haven't really had a chance to too much yet is just to get a better idea of like value hotspots, as in I've found a few spots where it's like I should be, definitely value betting because players are not folding very often. There's also going to, I would think, be spots where so when you look at like the sort of grids or the stuff in hand to note that I've been building, it'll show like a line, like a player positions and a line, and what PO thinks that line should be doing, and then what the player pool is doing. So you see the deviation, right? And so sometimes they're overfolding, sometimes they're underfolding, sometimes they're betting too... Whoops, I don't know why I made that 75. Sometimes they're c-betting too frequently, like oftentimes. Like there's a lot of... I think the most drastic one is the out of position. When out of position players get called from in position, they c-bet like 60 or 70% of the time, which is like way, way too much. So that's a huge one. But, I'm guessing there's just spots where players are just way heavily weighted towards value hands. You can also see over like large samples how bet size is fairly accurately correlated to value. Like I have an ACR database, a Winning Poker Network database that has quite a few hands. And on that one, like if you look at sort of a common line and you look at the bet sizing used in that line, it'll be like, it'll pretty gradually scale down and be more value hands the more money is bet, like pretty accurately. So in that sense, players do bet more with bigger hands. And I don't know if the reciprocal action is there as well, that players are gradually folding more often to bigger bets once the sample size gets high enough. You would think it would, but I'm not sure. We've got a gut shot. This is pretty grim though. I guess we'll peel one. I think we can. I think this is a hot spot for bet. Maybe not on this exact board, but cool. Cool. I think part of my interest in digging deeper into some of this stuff and is like, we talk a lot about the data point analysis. That's what Nick essentially has all of his students do to review hands, and that's what he does when we review with him. And for most of that data point stuff, we just sort of go with what he tells us, which I believe is accurate, right? Like, I don't disbelieve what he's saying, but most of the work he's done is at 2K no limit on ignition, and I'm playing at 25 no limit on ignition. So I think there could be some significant differences, although not as much as you would think. And I totally understand that there might not be as many differences as you would think. But again, like, I don't know of any players that have positive red lines at these stakes on this site. And at 2KNL, he definitely had a positive red line. So I'm just wondering if there are some spots that, so where my train of thought went is, again, when you have this clairvoyance over every hand that people show down, you might know that there's a hot spot, or you might know that something's supposedly happening more or less than it should. But then you get these examples, right, where you actually see somebody like barreling off with air, and you'll see it multiple times, right? And it's hard to ignore that stuff when you're in the moment, when like the most recent thing on your mind might be having just reviewed a hand where somebody, so I cut myself off again, but I was reviewing a hand like a little while ago where I had queen jack, and I had hit 2 pair on the turn. The river was a 10, and there was a 4 straight out. So it was like ace, queen, jack, 10, right? So a king made the straight. And I had bet, like, flop, bet turn, called, and then the 10 came on the river, and either I think the opponent let out for like 2/3 pot or half pot, or like a pretty significant amount on the 10, like making it so that all you need is a king for the straight. So I could understand somebody doing this as a bluff, right? And so I could understand someone doing it as a bluff, and obviously I would expect that somebody might do that when they have the nuts. He ended up doing it with a worse 2 pair. And it was just one of those things where I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I know it was the correct fold. So I'm not like thinking I should call, but like what is going on here? Is this, you kind of start to second guess, like, should I be making this call? Like, should I not be folding 2 pair on a 4 straight board? It just messes with your head. And so the next time you see somebody like, barreling at you and you've got a decent hand, it's a little bit harder to believe that they're doing what they maybe should be doing. Ace is a bad card. I don't think we're going to barrel that. So that's one of the, I would say, the negatives of being able to see every hand played when you download the hands later, is that you see all of like the crazy stuff that's happening. And that's why I think it's important to have a system where you can go through and get like the sort of aggregate of what everybody's doing, especially at an anonymous table. Because if all of a sudden you say, well, people are just barreling off here with air, so I got to call down with 3rd pair, you're going to start getting into a lot of trouble. But if you can quantify it into, these bet sizes are this distribution, and therefore, you can kind of just crunch the numbers on it. And the thing is, though, that's different than saying people are overfolding, underfolding, overstabbing, understabbing. That doesn't tell you what their distribution of equity is. And I think that's just as important, if not more. And so that's what I am kind of curious about, is coming up with a good system to figure out, you know, what either the polarization balance is in a given spot, or what the, there's X percentage of hand better than top pair, top kicker, and X percentage of hands below top pair, top kicker. That would be useful. And then to have some idea of, maybe but like the breakdown that Hand to Note gives you is like crazy detailed, and I'm sure there is a way. It's like really customizable, so I'm sure there's a way to sort of break it down so it's a little simpler, because it has tons of different hands. But most of the time I want to know, do they have less than top pair, or better than top pair? And then maybe how many of them are draws. Like if it was broken into like 4 categories, like maybe 5. It's broken into like 12 right now. The default is like 12. So I would be okay with just knowing, air, draw, weak pair, top pair, better than top pair. Yeah, like maybe like 5 categories would do it for me. So that is an area that I think more work can be done. And maybe it's already maybe the work is already done, and I just need to sort of accept that that's the closest we can get, and that's it. It is what it is, and that's as close as we can get, and oh well. But at the same time, we have a lot of information, and so I think that we can probably drill down on some of these decisions a little bit better and have a better idea of where we should and shouldn't be calling. Should and should not be calling, yeah. I feel like that's nonsense a lot, but there's nothing I can do about it, which is also sometimes frustrating when it seems like nonsense, but I don't really want to get into some 3-bet, 4-bet war on the turn with air. This is a good size this up a tiny bit. Again, this is weird sort of nonsense that I don't really understand, but I have position and I have top pair, so I don't think I'm ever folding. But this can be a lot of things, but it can also be a lot of nonsense. So it can be, I could see anything here. I could see air, I could see ace 3, I could see queen 9, I could see queen jack. I think this is just too nonsensy, right? This is just too fishy. Oh God, one time. I'm so happy right now. It's so nice to just be because a decent amount of time, you lose there, and then you have to be oh God, what am I doing? That's a fold. There's, red flag. It's a club on the river, and the guy's over potting, but that guy was clearly doing some fishy. The min click back on the flop. As soon as he did that, everything changes, right? And so there's spots that are like that, but they're hard to quantify, and they're stressful as fuck when you lose. When you lose that pot to queen 9, me, and maybe you guys are way more level-headed than me, but when I lose that to a queen 9 or just a set of 9s or something, I am pretty torn up, right? Like it's like hard to wrap my head around what's happening. So like when you do call down in a spot like that for a good, what I think was a good reason, and it turns out to be correct, it's just nice. It's nice to have that happen once in a while. My God. All right, back to focusing. So I don't know if that's quite enough to recover from some of the rough hands we've been having all day, but it's certainly a decent little bounce back. Call this. And I think we can fold this. It's half pot. We've got some equity. We've got the ace of diamonds, so like that'll prevent the number of flush draws that are peeling us. And we've got a couple one check from this guy, but a couple checks from the other players. Yeah, I'm not gonna, once they both call, I'm certainly not gonna try to bluff them both off of it. I don't like the 4-3 call. You'd be calling against like better flush draws. Queen 5, oh, nice. Queen 5 is actually just a call. It doesn't go in our 3-bet range, technically. Queen 4 suited would go in our 3-bet range. I wouldn't have minded doing it, though. In fact, I may eventually just increase the 3-bet range to include, like, every suited hand in the... Have to see what kind of profitability that offers us. Because I will say that when I 3-bet, I filtered, I don't have enough hands, but I filtered pretty much like for this year. And when I'm in the big blind 3-betting against the button, and I just filtered for sort of like what I would call like the bluffs. Pretty much all the suited hands and none of the premiums. I took pretty much all the premium hands out of it. And I'm still making quite a bit of money just with like the bluff end of things. So if that's going to be the case, I think it would make sense to increase the number of hands I do that with, because like nobody else is going to know that I'm, you know, increasing the number of bluffs I have. I mean, you guys will, but you won't know it's me. Actually kind of tempting to raise here because there's, you know, a decent number of overcards that can have some equity. Yeah, definitely want to call again, and then we'll evaluate the river. We'll see what sizing he uses. If he goes like 50 cents or $1, I'll call, because that could be like ace-7, $3 will fold. Alright, we're getting to 54 minutes on this video, so I'll pause it and start another one. What time do I need to get out of here? I guess it didn't snow. I thought, like, I don't know what I saw out there. I'm just seeing stuff. You could be there at 7:30. I gotta stop and pick something up at the store to bring. So if I leave here at 6:30, that should be plenty of time. So I got another hour. So yeah, I'll play for another hour and then I'll get ready to go at 6:30 and be a little bit late. Fashionably late. So we'll change over the tape in a couple minutes. I'm gonna actually just sit out the big blind and take a quick break, refill my drink. Turn on some lights in here, it's getting dark. Well, luckily this session seems to have improved a little bit. You know, one area I don't look at too much is the first small blind. 8s looks like a raise, yeah. King, queen, I think we should call, even out of position. Yeah, I would say I'm probably not raising very accurately from the big blind against the small blind. I have a range in my notes, but I'm not sure I use it quite enough. This is somebody playing the 1/3 strategy. Backdoors, overs, real annoying flop to try to defend against a raise on. So I don't know if I like I mean, I get a decent number of views on my videos, and I'm guessing that a like substantial number of people probably play on Ignition. I mean, I don't know, when I watch videos, I try to watch videos of people who are playing on sites I play on, although not always. I mean, because actually the more I look at it, the more similar I think all the environments are. But I do kind of wonder, because I do see more like 1/3 c-bets, how much either a combination of like what Nick is teaching and, you know, doing with like his live streams and his run it once videos and all that, and then, you know, also like I put these videos up and they get, you know, a few hundred views each, so that's, you know, presumably a few hundred poker players that are watching this, that are playing on various sites, that, you know, whether or not they believe what I'm doing, you know, they may believe that somebody that knows what they're talking about is at least coaching me on it. So I don't know, maybe it's one of those things like, you know, when you get a new car and before you buy the car, you don't really notice them around, but once you own the car, it seems like everybody's driving them. Maybe it's one of those things. Like, remember when I used to see a 1/3 pot bet, I was like, oh, here's a guy that doesn't like really know what he's doing. He's not making the right bet size. So maybe I just kind of thought those were fishy players. Now I see it and I assume it's somebody that's, you know, playing some sort of strategy similar to what I'm doing, which I don't like, because I feel like I see it a lot more now. So he checks. Let's go ahead and do a stab here. Kind of a big stab. We probably could tone that down a bit, but sort of a weird board. That's one of those like just close your eyes and do it. Just close your eyes and click the buttons. This is what I'm talking about, is like that sort of extra level of confidence that you have when you're winning. Sometimes it gets you in trouble because you do dumb stuff that you shouldn't do. You over 3-bet. But as long as you're staying like pretty tight with your pre-flop stuff, that extra confidence just sort of, I think, empowers you to make the correct plays. And I think sometimes like when I'm feeling extra confident, like one of the best things that improves is my ability to fold. I think that the tendency to overcall comes from a lack of confidence. I mean, right, like, because you don't have the confidence to say, look, here are the data points, you know, here's the situation, you know, here, what are the value hands that I beat, how often is he bluffing, and then, you know, from those two things, what's the correct decision. And when you're feeling really confident, you can just very objectively go through those things, make the right decision, know you're correct, and move on. When you're feeling really unconfident, a lot of like self-doubt creeps in, and, you know, oh, you know, I've seen guys do, you know, XYZ, I've seen them do this or the other, I don't know, and then you end up clicking call. Same thing with like missing re-raises, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to deal with this on the turn. I'm not feeling confident. If this guy calls, then what do I do on the turn? When you're feeling confident, you're like, all right, this is the spot. I'll deal with the turn when I get there. If he calls, he's got a lot of value. I'll probably give up on anything that doesn't give me the hand, and then we'll move on. It's just that ability to, for me, it's that ability to logically and quickly think through the hand, but more importantly in a confident manner. And I feel much more objective and much more data point driven when I'm either having a good session, or even if I'm not having a good session dollar wise, but mentally having a good session, then I'm able to pick those things out. And that's I think what I really need to do is kind of get jazzed a little bit for my sessions, get that confidence going, and be ready to walk through that exercise every time I'm facing, especially large bets on the river. That's where I think most of my profit is going, is to calling when I shouldn't. Maybe it's some stuff before the river. I think I'm probably some raises. I probably call too many raises prior to the river on flops and sometimes turns. But I think just medium and large bets on the river. And again, what happens is I review hands. I see all this sort of, as I call it, nonsense. And then that creeps in. It's I don't know. I just saw a bunch of random stuff. And all I need to do is think, should, your average player, not some random nonsense player that I don't have a nonsense read on, a donk read on, but should, I'm not sure, it's very close to a raise, but I think we have too much equity to fold. So we have too much equity to fold. Now we can check fold, and if he checks, we should probably stab river. That's a pretty good river to stab too. So I don't think we need a huge bet. I think half pot will get him off of maybe some ace high. Obviously not two pair, but I think that's okay. I don't expect to get him off top pair, two pair, ace high, even always. I do expect him to fold two ace high. Obviously two pair, no. But yeah, I mean, he checked back the turn with two pair, which maybe that gets value against my air, but anyway, this is a raise. This should be a call. Okay, let me just switch over the tape. Let me sit out next big blind. I guess this one will be a little longer. The next one will be a little shorter. There's such a hot spot for when he checks the turn that I think we can call a lot with the weakest portions of our range. Not the absolute worst, but a hand like this that has a little bit of backdoor, and even a queen can be good there. But again, I'm calling because there's such a profitable opportunity if he checks the turn that I think it's worth it. Players also they c-bet way too often, so they're c-betting a ton, and then when they check back the turn, they're way over folding the river. So it's you kind of have to be a little bit patient for that hot spot. You're not always going to get it, but when you do get it, it's fairly profitable. And you just need sort of some kind of hand that can maybe once in a while turn, something that you can continue with. So I don't know, maybe that was too weak, but I think it's okay. Oh, tired of talking. I'm just going to raise again. I don't know what that is. I haven't really looked into it, but hopefully it's somebody that just wants to ship it in. Tempted to do something cute here, click back. In fact, let's do that, because that's annoying. I think I have the nuts. Huh. Oh, that was so close to a straight. All right. I don't know why he didn't just ship it in once so again, that min, like one more big blind. That time it was queens. I don't know. I mean, I could filter for it and see, but I guess I assume it's usually value. That's why I re-raise this, because usually when someone like is like, oh, I just want to raise a little, like get a little more in there, it's usually a big hand. That's what bets look like is usually what they are. That's something that is you kind of need to remind yourself of sometimes. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. Hopefully you're enjoying this. I know it's a lot of rambling, but I'll be back in a minute here, and we'll finish up this session. Hopefully finish it strong. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.